أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم وفقنا وسائر المشتغلين للعلم والعمل الصالح بحق محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم والعن عدوهم. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, O Abu Dhar, whoever dies having an atom's weight of arrogance in his heart will never smell the scent of heaven unless he repents beforehand. Abu Dhar asked, O Messenger of Allah, I am fond of beauty so much so that I wished that the handle of my cane and the lace of my sandal be beautiful. So should I be afraid of this? He said, how do you see your heart? Abu Dhar said, I see it knowing the truth and certain of him. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that is not arrogance. Rather, arrogance, here the definition of arrogance. Rather, arrogance is that you leave the truth and exceed beyond it or beyond him to other than him. You look at people and you do not see their honor as being like your honor or their blood like yours. Really, if somebody try to make that he is arrogant, it is not good for a person to be arrogant. Almost those people whom they are arrogant, really they cannot succeed in this life and hereafter, because arrogant something, I can explain it, it's a kind of a sickness, an ill inside a person to be arrogant. Why should I be arrogant? What's for? I have the same what you have. Not only that, for a person, he has his WC with him. He has his latrine with him. He is carrying his latrine with him. Is that true? Yes, this is true. So why should I be arrogant? My beginning, it is from a tiny, distinctly and dirty thing, najis thing, and my end will be a cup. So why should I be arrogant? What's for? قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا ذر من مات وفي قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر لم يجد رائحة الجنة إلا أن يتوب قبل ذلك. يعني المتكبر ريح الجنة ما يشمها، اللي هي على بعد مسيرة 500 عام. ريح الجنة تنشم من على بعد مسيرة 500 عام. هذا حتى ريح الجنة ما يشوف، ما يوصل هالمستوى هذا. يا رسول الله، أبو ذر يقول إني لا يعجبني الجمال حتى وددت أن علاقة صوتي وقبال نعلي حسن. يقول يا رسول الله أنا يعجبني الجمال، أتمنى يعني حتى هذه الخيط اللي أربط به الصوت مال دابة مالتي يكون جميل، فتشي مرتب، حتى يكون الشسع مال نعل مالتي عز الله السامع هم جميل. أنا يعجبني الجمال. ده يسأل النبي يقول له هل هذا نوع من الكبر؟ فهل يرهب على ذلك؟ يعني الآن أخاف أنا من هذا الأمر اللي أنا كنت عليه. قال الكلام للنبي صلى الله عليه وآله كيف تجد قلبك؟ قال أجده عارفا للحق. قال أنا أعرف، يعني قلبي مطمئن ويا الحق، مطمئنا إليه. للحق يعني عارفا بالله، عارفا للحق يعني عارفا بالله، مطمئنا إليه. قال ليس ذلك بالكبر. إذن هذا اللي عندك ترى مو نوع كبار، ولكن الآن النبي راح يعرف لنا الكبر. الكبر أن تترك الحق وتتجاوزه إلى غيره. الكبر أنه أنت راح تترك الله وتروح لأبعد من عنده، تروح لغير الله سبحانه وتعالى، وتنظر إلى الناس ولا ترى أن أحدا من الناس، ولا ترى أن أحدا عرضه كعرضك ولا دمه كدمك. هذول شعب الله المختار، الشعب العاري مو وإحنا الشعب الله المختار. هذول عندهم نوع من الكبر، لذلك الله سبحانه وتعالى لا يقبل منهم شيء، وإنما سوف يذهبون إلى نار جهنم وبئس المصير، نعوذ بالله. With Islamic laws we reach women having the habit of fixed duration. You know fixed duration? For example, 6 days. She sees the blood for 6 days for 2 consecutive months, or 7 days, or 10 days, or 9 days, or 3 days. For both or for 2 consecutive months, she sees the blood with the same duration. This woman, we call her what? Of a fixed duration. Women having the habit of duration are of 2 types. The women which have the duration, fixed duration of 2 types. A woman whose duration of haid in 2 consecutive months is the same, but the commencing times, the beginning, times differ. 7 days for each month, but this month she sees the blood at the 3rd of the month till the 10th. Before it, last month, she sees the blood also for 7 days, but the commencing days they started from the 2nd till the 9th. So the same duration, 7 days, but with different commencing days. Is this understood? For example, if blood is seen from the 1st to the 5th of the first month, and from 11th to the 15th of the second month, her duration habit will be of how many days? 5 days. 5 days. A woman who sees blood in 2 consecutive months for 3 or more days, and then it stops for a day or 2 before it starts again, though the time of commencement of blood varies in the 2nd month from that of the 1st, her duration habit will be the number of days during which blood is seen, provided that the total number of the bleeding and طهر days does not exceed 10, and that the duration period in both the month remains equal. For example, if you have a pen and to write this example, we have this woman which her blood is of let's say 8 days. 8 days. She sees blood for 8 days in 2 consecutive months. But this month, she sees the blood for 3 days, and she has طهر for 1 day, okay? and she sees the blood again for 4 days, for 4 days. So we have three. The first discharge is 3 days, then 1 day is tuhur, and 4 days of the second discharge. The total number is 8 days and not exceeding 10 days. Okay, so this lady is of a period or of haid of 8 days, fixed duration, not fixed day of commencement, no, of fixed duration, 8 days in the first month and 8 days in the second month. This is clear? As a measure of precaution in the intervening days, which in our example is the 1 day, only 1 day, which Tuhur day. Okay, she will do, before I'll go, what she has to do. Yes. In English. You have the mic, please. You have the mic? Yes. What
she should do the things that are required from the woman who is tahir and refrain from the things that are unlawful for a woman who is haid.
For example, give me one example from the first one and one example from the second one.
The tahir things like prayer and fasting.
Good.
And refrain from staying or entering the mosques.
Okay, good, very good. So, as we have to repeat these acts, we have to repeat them in order to keep them, to memorize them, to act according to them, because they are of a daily problems. As a measure of precaution in the intervening days, she will do all that is obligatory upon a lady who is tahir, just like prayer, just like fasting, okay? And also refrain from all those acts which a ha'id is forbidden to do. For example, if during the first month, he's going to give us example about this. For example, if during the first month she sees the blood from the first to the third, how many days? Which is the less of hayd, 3 days. And then it stops for 2 days. And then sees again for 3 days, 3 days, 2 days, 5 days, and 3 days, 8 days. And in the second month, she sees it from the 11th to the 13th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 3 days. And then it stops for 2 days, 14 and 15, and then sees it for 3 days, 16, 17, 18. Her duration habit will be 6 days. Her habit will be 6 days. Okay. Is this understood, inshallah? And any question? 6 days. 6 days, because we count the days of what? The days of bleeding, of discharging. 3 days and 3 days. Because the 2 intervening day, she is what? She is tahir. She is tahir. And when I call her ha'id, that means there is discharge, there is a bleeding. So within these 2 days, she is what? She is tahir. Is this understood, inshallah? Yeah, maybe I mis-explained it before with my example. Because of that, Allah, you say that. Okay. So, will be 6 days. And if the duration in 2 consecutive months is not constant, like if she sees the blood for 8 days in the first month and for 4 days in the next, then a pause, maybe 1 or 2 days pause, طهر for 1 or 2 days, and again bleeding starts, making the total days, the total 8 days by including intervening days. This is the second example. In the first discharge, she sees for 8 days. Look, for 8 days continuously. In the first month, she sees 8 days continuously. There is no tahor. Okay? Again, just follow me, please. And if the duration in 2 consecutive months is not constant, like, here we have the example. If she sees the blood for 8 days, look, for 8 days, what? Bleeding. In the first month, so the first month, how many days? 8 days bleeding. There is no tahor. All right? And 4 days in the next month, she sees 4 days, then a pause of 1 or 2 days, and again bleeding starts, making the total 8 days by including the intervening days. Look, 4 days, a break or tahor 1 day, and she sees blood for 3 days. So the total, how many? Good. 8 days, including the intervening days. Then such a woman cannot be classified a woman with a fixed duration. Why? Why? Before I continue, why we cannot classify her of a fixed duration? Yes. 8 days with 8 days. Yes. Because we explain that when we call her ha'id, there must be what? There must be bleeding. There must be discharging. With the second month, not the 8 days she is bleeding. She has what? In an intervening days, tahor, either 1 or 2 days. Yes, the total number is 8. But not the 8 days are what? Are bleeding. Is this understood? Good. This lady, she sees blood in the first month for 8 days. Discharge of blood for 8 days. Okay? There is no intervening. There is no tahor. In Persian language, there is no pack day. بالفارسي ما يقولون طهر pack يسمونه. Okay? So, بس هاي الكلمة الوحيدة ترى أعرفها مو عبالكم أحكي فارسي. This is the only word I know. All right. Now, but with the second day, with the second month, with the consecutive month, she sees the blood for 4 days, and there is tahor for 1 day, and then she sees the blood for 3 days. So, blood 4 days, blood 3 days, tahor 1 day. So, can we say, or can we ascribe or describe this lady with a fixed duration? No, of course not. Why? Because the bleeding days are different. In the first month, 8 days. In the second month, 7 days. This discharge.
What's the difference between the previous example?
يعني أنا ما متوقع هذا السؤال من عندك اليوم هيك. أنت تلقفيها وهي طايرة. هذه الفرق, the difference between them. The bleeding days. In the first month, 8 bleeding days. In the second month, 7 bleeding days. Not 8. No. I'm not talking about the previous example.
I'm asking the difference
In the previous example, the same days of bleeding, the same days. Yes. Yes, both of them, they have intervening days. In both consecutive months, they have what? Intervening days. But as a result, the same days of bleeding. You got it? Good. Alhamdulillah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Yes, it needs salawat. All right. So, and if the duration in 2 consecutive months is not constant, like if she sees the blood for 8 days in the first month and for 4 days in the next month, then a pause and again bleeding starts making the total day 8 days by including the intervening days, then such a woman cannot be classified as a woman with fixed duration. She will be مضطربة, whose rules will be discussed later. So, what is the difference when, to mention this is fixed duration women of hayd, and this is of fixed duration and time, this is مضطربة, this is مبتدئ. What's the difference? The difference is because each one of them has her own what? Her own rules, her own ahkam. She cannot act according to the others' ahkam. Her act, her worship act will be void. Allah يساعدكم. Yes, the women, they have difficult rules to apply while in their worship act, especially with the hayd, with the nifas, with the istihad. And inshallah, we will have an issue. That issue will explain if a lady, if a woman, she does her acts or worship acts without applying the rules, or with applying the rules which are not in her state, her acts will be what? Her worship act will be void. We'll take this. So be sure of your cases or of your states. Issue number 499. A woman, or if a woman with the fixed habit of duration, a fixed habit of duration means 8 days in the first month and 8 days in the second month, 7 days in the first month and 7 days in the second month. Okay, sees the blood for less or more days than her habitual duration. For more, for example, her habitual days of hayd is of 6 days each month. This month, she sees the blood for 5 days or 7 days. But the number of those days does not exceed 10. The number does not exceed 10. All of them inside the 10, either 10 or less, but not the same duration, either more or less. Is this understood? We are talking through the limits from the third to the 10th. From the 3rd to the 10th. Her period either 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This month, she sees the blood. For example, her period of 10 days. This month, she sees her period of 9 days. Or her period was 8 days. This month, she sees the blood for how many? For 9 days. This is our topic. But not exceed 10. She should treat them as hayd. All of them as what? Since they are where? In the 10th. Since they are not exceeding the 10 days. And If it exceeds 10 days and the nature of the blood remains the same throughout, what does it mean? Let's say either all of it red, all of it black, all of it yellowish, all of it the same, not changed. But the problem is what? That very good exceeds 10 days, maybe 11 days, maybe 12 days and more. Then she will calculate her habitual duration. Her habitual duration of how many days? For example, it was for 6 days. Now she has to go back for 6 days as hayd and the rest as istihada. Yes, then she will calculate her habitual duration from the day bleeding began and treat it as hayd. But if the nature of blood changes, the nature of blood changes. Like through the 10th, it is what? It is red or black. After the 10th, it is yellowish, soft, and so on. But if the nature of blood changes, with some days showing signs of hayd and others showing signs of istihada, then there can be 3 possibilities. Now, if this blood exceeds 10 days and with the change of the blood, it is not the same description. Few days it comes black. The other days comes yellowish. So there is no stability in its description. Here we have 3 cases or 3 possibilities to discuss. Number 1, if the number of days in which blood shows signs of hayd tallies with the habitual duration. Again, if the number of days in which blood shows signs of hayd tallies with the habitual duration, then she will take those days as of hayd and the rest as of istihada. She sees the blood for 11 days or more, and the kind of blood is changing, not the same. But she used to have her duration of how many days? Let's say 7 days. Within these 7 days, she sees the blood as what? As red or black. Either red, all of it red, or black. And the day number 8, day number 9, day number 10, day number 11, the blood is what? Is yellowish. Now what she has to do, she will go back to the 7 days. She will go back to 7 days, and those 7 days are her days of hayd. While the rest after the 7 are the days of istihada. Is that understood? Number 2. If the number of days in which blood shows signs of hayd exceeds 10 or exceeds her habitual duration, maybe her habitual duration of 7 days, now they become how many? 8 or 9. If the let me just make this, please. Yes. if the number of days in which blood shows signs of hayd exceeds her habitual duration, then she will take her habitual duration as what? As hayd. And she becomes hayd. During these days, she quit her worship act. And the rest as istihada. And the rest as istihada. Those 2 points, you understood those 2 points?
But the second one, same, exceeds 10 days.
Huh? In the second one?
The second year exceeds 10 days.
Uh-huh. If the number of days on which blood, my daughter, we are talking about here, if you exceeds 10 days, here we have 3 cases. The first one and the second one exceeds 10 days. The first one and the second one. But the first one, we can determine her habitual days from where? From the blood. Because the blood in her habitual days is different from the rest. The blood in her habitual days is either red or black, having the signs of what? Of hayd blood, while the rest is not. So only those days in her habitual duration is hayd, while the rest is what? Istihada. In the second case, the number of days on which blood shows signs of hayd exceeds her habitual duration, then she will take her habitual duration as hayd and the rest of istihada. That this blood which have the signs of hayd blood, it is not as much as her duration number. It exceeds maybe her hayd duration for 7 days, but she sees the blood which has the signs of hayd for 9 days. عليك خلوني أوضحها بالعربي. هذه شنو ميزتها عن الأولى؟ من حقش ترتبكين. هذه ميزتها عن الأولى إنه هذه أيام العدد مالتها، أيام الدورة مالتها شبيهة الدم اللي هو بصفات الحيض ازداد على أيام دورتها أكثر من أيام دورتها. هي 7 أيام، شافت ايش قد بصفات الحيض 9 أيام. وبس هو كل الدم ايش قد مستمر ترى 10 أيام، أكثر من 10 أيام، بتجاوز 10 أيام. بس المشكلة هذا اللي بصفات الحيض أكثر من أيام دورتها. هي 7 أيام، ذا الأولى لا نفس أيام دورتها، شلناها دي شرحت. هسه اللي عندنا شافت أيام البلاد اللي هو which has the signs of hayd more than her duration. شو راح تسوي؟ شو تقول؟ هم آخذ هذا كله؟ قول لها لا، أخذي فقط أيامك اللي هي 7 أيام مالتك، وعوف البقية شنو هو؟ حيض. So the second point, the second case, that this lady, she sees a blood which has the signs of hayd more than her duration. She has a fixed of duration. For example, this month she sees a blood which has the signs of hayd for 9 days, while her duration is 7 days. So now what is the hukum? The hukum, she will take the 7 days as hayd, which are the same as her duration, and she leaves the rest as what? As istihada, even if some of them are what? Are having the same description of hayd blood. This is understood? Is this understood? Any question? Babati, any question? Daughters? No question? Okay. Last case. Number 3. If the number of days in which blood shows signs of hayd is less than her habitual duration. Her habitual duration 7 days. Now the blood which have the signs of hayd is 6 days, 5 days. Okay? What she has to do? She will add, very good. She will add some days. She will add some days for what? To complete her duration and take that period as hayd and treat the rest of the days as what? As blood of istihada. Is this understood? So here we have 3 cases. The first case, definitely we are dealing with the women which has a fixed duration. A fixed duration. Let's take example of 7 days. Of 7 days. This lady, this month, the second month, for example, she sees a blood which exceeds 10 days. Which exceeds 10 days. What is the hukum? Here we have 3 cases. Either the blood which can be changed, that the blood which have the signs of hayd are the same of her duration, that will be her hayd days, and she will leave the rest as what? As istihada. Or that the blood of hayd is more than her habitual or duration, but not more than 10 days. Here she will take only her habitual days and treat the others as what? As istihada, even if they have what? Even if they have the signs of hayd. The third case, if the number of hayd is lesser than her duration, she will add from the days which have the blood, doesn't have the signs of hayd, to complete her duration and to act as hayd in those days, and the rest will treat them as what? As istihada. والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.